The very last aerodrome surface consideration which we'll need to deal with is the load-bearing capability of the runway. It may seem an obvious point, but a small aerodrome, such as the one shown on screen, would not have a strong enough paved surface to bear the load of a Boeing 747. The aeroplane would simply sink into the surface, damaging the aerodrome and of course the aeroplane itself. In order to prevent aeroplanes and aerodromes suffering from such problems, a standard classification system of aerodrome and aeroplane loading was adopted by the ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization. This classification is divided into two main parts. One part establishes pavement strength codes for all aerodromes, and the other establishes load ratings for all aeroplanes. We will deal firstly with the pavement strength codes for aerodromes. All major aerodromes have a pavement strength report which is divided into 5 sections as shown on screen. The first section is the Pavement Classification Number, or PCN. This value is a measure of the bearing strength of the runway, starting from 0. In our example, we have a pavement classification number of 70. So if the aeroplane's classification load is greater than this, then runway fracture may occur. The second section codes the pavement type, either rigid or flexible. The third section relates to the subgrade strength category, which can be high, medium, low, or ultra-low. The fourth section relates to maximum tire pressure. And the final section specifies the pavement evaluation method, which can be either a technical evaluation or evaluated by user assessment. The PCN coding is not important for the JAA aircraft performance exam, but a pilot really must be able to decode these reports when flying. The second part of the ICAO system deals with the aeroplane load ratings based upon certain subgrades. The load ratings are called the Aircraft Classification Number, or ACN. The values of the Aircraft Classification Number are given so that they may be compared with the Pavement Classification Number. This simple rule is that the Aircraft Classification Number is not allowed to exceed the Pavement Classification Number for the corresponding type of subgrade surface. The best way to understand how this rule works is to look at an example, such as the one shown on screen. The pavement strength report gives the pavement classification number as 30 on a flexible surface with a low strength subgrade. The pavement is medium tire pressure restricted, and the evaluation of the pavement has been carried out by technical analysis. Our example aeroplane 737 on the same low subgrade surface has an aircraft classification number of 42. The ACN can be obtained from the aeroplane flight manual, but the important point to note is that the aircraft classification number is greater than the pavement classification number. This basically means that the aeroplane is applying a far greater load to the pavement than the pavement can bear. The pavement is capable of bearing an aeroplane classification load of only 30. It would therefore not be prudent for our aeroplane to operate on this particular aerodrome. There would be a danger of the aeroplane sinking into the pavement, causing damage to the pavement and/or the aeroplane. However, there is an allowance for overload on the pavement. The pavement classification number value includes a safety factor, so that a 10% increase in aircraft classification number over the pavement classification number is generally acceptable for pavements that are well consolidated, in good condition, and provided that certain conditions are adhered to. Individual aerodrome authorities are free to permit overload operations as long as pavements remain safe for use by aircraft. If the aircraft classification number exceeds the pavement classification number by values of more than 10%, then more stringent conditions are set out and movements must be very carefully monitored. In this last part of the lesson on aerodromes, we will test the knowledge you have learnt so far in relation to runway distances. Shown here is a runway with a stopway and a clearway. Which of the labelled distances, number 1, 2 or 3, represents the takeoff run available? Click on the relevant number. Tora is represented by distance number 3. If you recall, Tora was defined as the declared length of runway, starting at the point from which an aeroplane can commence the takeoff and ending at the nearest point which is unsuitable to bear the load of the aeroplane under normal conditions. In most cases, the Tora is essentially the paved length of runway from one threshold to another, and did not include any available lengths of clearways or stopways. Using the same image, click on the relevant number which represents the takeoff distance available. TODA is represented by distance number 1. You may recall that we said TODA is the length of Tora plus any clearway available. Remember though that we cannot use any amount of clearway that is greater than 50% of the Tora. Lastly, which of the given distances is represented by the landing distance available? The landing distance available is represented by distance number 3. You may recall that the landing distance available stretches from one threshold to another. There is no other distance that is allowed to be used for landing. Even stopways are not permitted to be used. They were only to be used in the event of an abandoned takeoff. Hopefully from this lesson you will have learnt a lot more detail about the aerodrome and its available distances. These are important points, and errors in the calculation of runway distances can be catastrophic. There are many other runway characteristics that affect aeroplane performance, such as runway slope and condition, but these will be described in detail during the takeoff and landing sections of this course. Be sure to familiarize yourself with an aerodrome prior to using it, so that no surprises or embarrassing mistakes are made. You can find most of this information in the aircraft operating manual or your aerodrome plates.